Once you set up your Theora Link Pro account, the first thing that you'll be prompted to do is to add a device. So to do so, all you need to do is simply tap on the scan QR code. And then with the watch powered on, you can press either the SOS or the power on button. So I'll go ahead and press that button. And this QR code is scanned in. You can now provide the personalization information about the watch. So I'll call this test. For the SOS phone number, this is going to be the number that the watch will call if the SOS button is pressed, or if you're using our smart fall detection, a fall is detected. Once the device is registered, the first thing that you'll be asked to do is to verify the SOS number. What this is going to do is this is going to send a command to the watch for the watch to call that SOS number. Now, in some cases, you may have blocked unknown phone numbers on your phone, and so you may need to add the watch's phone number to your contact list. The watch's phone number should be labeled on the box, or you can tap on Settings, go down to the bottom of the screen, and that will give you the device's phone number. So in this case, the phone number is 681-945-1752. I'm going to go ahead and verify the SOS number. And this is going to call my phone number, my contact number. So I'll make a test call. And the watch successfully called my phone. My phone rang. I was able to answer it. So I'm going to go ahead and say call received. And now the call SOS phone number has gone away since it has been verified. Now, some of the key information that you'll see, we get an immediate location of where the watch is, updated map. You can tap the minus button or the plus button to zoom in or out. You can also switch to satellite views. Some of the dashboard information, the percent of battery, the status, the steps that have been taken, and if there's been any falls that have been detected. If you want more information on the status, you can tap on that and it will give you more technical details. We do have 3 statuses, so obviously a green check mark means that everything is working and everything is operating as expected. We also have a yellow question mark, which means that there may be some issues with the watch. Typically, this may be that the watch is in a low cell signal area, and you'll be given those details about what kind of functionality may be limited in those conditions. And then finally, there would be a red X. If we're not able to connect to the watch, if something is going on with the watch, we do have a red X. And again, it will tell you how long that watch has been offline. In most cases, it is that the battery has died and it's no longer on. In some cases, it may be that there's just simply no cell signal at all and we cannot contact the watch. So again, green check mark, everything is working. Red X, something might not be working, and yellow limited operations. You can also tap on the steps count icon, and that will give you the status for the last several days of how many steps have been taken so that you can see what the activity level of your loved one has been over the past few days. Continuing on, our 3 main features: live location, quick connect, and call device. Live location. The way our device works is every 15 minutes, the watch is updating its location. So 15 minutes, it says, here's where I am. There's 15 minutes later, it says, here's where I am. Now, in some cases, we may need to get an update that is sooner than 15 minutes. We need an immediate update. So when we tap on that live location, that will immediately send a request to the watch to update its location, and so we don't have to wait for those 15 minutes. And also, instead of updating every 15 minutes, it will begin updating in near real time. So every 3 minutes, it will update its location for you. So there you go. We just got back the location 28 seconds ago. and it's now going to continue doing this and continue to update its location every 3 minutes. And it will do that for 30 minutes, and then it'll go back to the 15-minute cycle. So again, this is very important for if you are in a wandering situation, that near real-time location information. The other thing in our live location, again, you can continue to use the plus or the minus or the satellite view. You can also pinch to squeeze, and you'll see two icons here. What this is showing is your location, or the location of your phone, in relation to the location of your watch. So in my case, I'm actually in the house in the same location as my watch, so you see that they are very close together. If you were a few blocks away, you would see the distance and the separation. But the point is, you can see where you are in relationship to that watch. Continuing on, our next two features are Quick Connect and Call Device. Both of those features will make a phone call to the watch. Now, our Quick Connect is designed to have the watch automatically answer the phone call. So in some situations and in some conditions, the person wearing the watch may not be able to answer the watch. So in those cases, we can use the Quick Connect feature. That will send a command to the watch to automatically answer. Your phone will call the watch, and you'll be immediately placed into speakerphone mode on the watch, and you can begin talking to your loved one, or in some cases you may need to listen to the background noise and background atmospheres. We've also had people that have used these feature in situations where their loved one is no longer communicative, but they were able to use the Quick Connect, bring attention. They began speaking into the watch, "Bob, Bob, where are you?" And there was a Good Samaritan that was nearby, was able to ascertain that there was, some confusion with an elderly gentleman, but heard something going on with the watch. The Good Samaritan was able to use that to get communication so that the loved one could be safely returned to where they needed to be. Using the call device, that's more like a traditional phone call. So if you tap on call device, your phone will call the watch will ring. There will be a prompt to either ignore or answer the call. And again, it's more like a typical cell phone where you're calling the watch. The watch does not have voicemail. So if they do not answer the watch, or if they're in a situation where there is no cell service, there is no voicemail, you may get a message about voicemail not being set up. That's because there is no voicemail on the watch. So if the person doesn't answer, or you don't have it on the Quick Connect, there will not be any way to leave a message on the watch. We also have some notifications. Now, since I just set this up, we haven't displayed any notifications, but here you would see different activity, like if the battery was charged or needed to be charged, if the watch has entered or exited a safe zone, if it has been placed on or off of the charger. You would get those notifications here, and you'd be able to list what's happened and see what's happened throughout the course of the day. Our care team. Now, this is very important. We want your loved ones to be able to have the proper care team around them, and there are two different types of care team. The first is our app users. So these are going to be the people that you want to have the application. You want them to be able to see the location, all of the details. So those are our app users. So we're just going to tap on app users, and this would just invite that care team member. So provide the information, and then down at the very end, hit send invite. What that will do is that will send that person an email so that they can download and install the application onto their phone, and then that will add your loved one into their care team, and they will be able to use the application. They can monitor the activity, they can see the location, all the things that you can do as the owner or the administrator. That care team will be able to do and monitor them. We also, in some conditions, we have contacts. So there may be situations where you want different family members or different members of the care team to be able to call the watch. You may want that wearer, that the person that is wearing the watch to be able to call a limited number of contacts. But you don't want to give them the full access to the application. So in those cases, we would just add them as a contact. And again, the process is very similar. Put in their name, their phone number, and then there is an option if you want to add that. The watch will ordinarily only call when the SOS button is pressed, but this gives the ability, you can add them so that there can be a limited contact list on the watch itself. So when you tap on the watch screen, there's a telephone icon, and there'll be a list of the people that are in the contacts that the watch can call, or vice versa. Now, unless it is a known contact, either as a contact or as a care team member, all phone calls going to the watch will be blocked. So you won't get any spam calls, you won't get any telemarketing calls. If the phone number has not been explicitly entered into either as an app user or as a contact, those calls are just immediately blocked, and there is no response on the watch. Now going to the history. So 3 things that we can look at. We can look at the notifications. And so there you see that I just placed the watch on the charger, and you can see that we got a notification of the watch going on to the charger. You may also have things like safe zone, enters and exits, the battery is getting low, all of those types of notifications. We can also look at the locations of the watch. Now in this case, I haven't had many locations because we just set it up, but this will give you those breadcrumbs of where the watch has been. You can use the purple arrows in the bottom to go forward or backwards in time to trace. The purple clock will allow you to squeeze that into a specific time. And there's also a calendar, blue calendar in the bottom right, and you can select a specific day. Again, I've just set up this watch, so there's not going to be any information, any location information on a new watch. And finally, we can look at the steps count. So this is the same view that if you hit the step count from the main dashboard, you're going to get the same historical information from the past several days of how many steps, what the activity level of your loved one has been. The last thing that we want to look at are the device settings. So in wearer details, this is where you can continue to personalize the details of the wearer. You can add a photo of them. If you need to change their name or anything, you can make all of those changes here in the wearer details. Anytime you do make a change, you need to go to the bottom and tap on the Save button at the bottom to make sure that those changes are saved. Safe zones, this is a very important feature for many of our users where you may want to put an area around maybe the home so that you know if your loved one has left or come home. So we're going to go ahead and create a safe zone. Now it's going to automatically center in on your current location. If you're not at the location that you want to set up, you can enter in the address of the location that you want to set up. But I'm going to go ahead and just use the location that I am at. I will say next. You can make this area as small as 300 feet or as large as 10 miles. Now we do find that most people keep it relatively small, keep it at that default of 300 feet. We'll give that a name, so I'll call this home and save the location. And there we go, we have the location saved. So now anytime I enter or leave my safe zone, every 15 minutes it's going to be updating its location. So if it detects that I've entered or exited, I'll get a message that says, you know, test has left home or test has entered home. The next thing is our Wi-Fi networks. Now the way we use our Wi-Fi is we're able to continue to get data from the watch. We can continue to get safe zone information from the watch by using Wi-Fi. And we're not able to make voice phone calls over Wi-Fi. So where this is very important, if you're in an area where you have limited cell service, we can use this to kind of supplement to make sure that you're always getting the data, that you always know where the watch is. But if it is a weak cell signal, you may not be able to make a phone call onto the watch. But I'm going to go ahead and set up the Wi-Fi network. So we'll say add Wi-Fi network. You'll type in the name of your Wi-Fi network. Again, it is case sensitive, so if you have any capitalized letters, you need to enter it in as it is displayed, and then make sure that you enter in whatever your password is for the network. Now, some older networks do use WEP security. If you don't know what WEP security is, you're probably not using WEP security. So in most cases, leave that off. Most people are not using WEP security. And then you're probably going to want to associate this to a safe zone. So I'm going to go ahead and say associate it to my home network. Now this actually allows a couple of very important benefits. So by default, the watch is updating its location every 15 minutes. And also, because of the way that GPS works, the precision, especially when the watch is indoors, may be off by 100 feet or so. And honestly, that's why we have that radius, that minimum radius of 300 feet. If we made it much smaller, because of the way GPS works with the watch and when it's indoors, you may see the watch kind of move in and out. Now, GPS is very accurate outdoors. It can be within a couple of yards of accuracy outdoors, but indoors there are some limitations to its accuracy when the watch is indoors. And then there's also that delay. So what we can do by using Wi-Fi is two things. Number one, we can immediately trigger the alert. So when that watch enters or leaves the Wi-Fi coverage area, we can immediately say that they have entered or left the Wi-Fi zone. So there's not a 15-minute delay. And in some cases, that's very important for users. The other things that we're able to do, since we're using the Wi-Fi coverage area, which is typically less than those 300 feet, it effectively gives us a smaller safe zone. So in most cases, that may be a house or two down the road, and then by that point, they're no longer able to get Wi-Fi coverage. It disconnects, and you would receive an immediate alert that your loved one has left the Wi-Fi zone. So that's why we use our Wi-Fi network. Going on to device settings, you can change that update, that location update. Again, by default, it's every 15 minutes. But to conserve batteries, you can make that 30, 45, or every hour. So the less frequent of updates, the longer your battery is going to last. Another couple of features is the shake to wake feature. So when you have the watch, in order to turn on the display of the watch, you need to press one of the buttons. You can press either SOS button or the power button. That will turn the LCD on and you can see the watch. Now, in some cases that may be frustrating to the user. They don't want to have to press a button. That may be confusing between pressing the button of turning the screen on and the SOS. And some of our users just want to be able to, turn their wrist and see what time it is. To do that, they can enable shake to wake. And when they do that, the motion of twisting the wrist, that motion will activate the LCD screen and it will display, they can see the time. Now that it does impact the battery life, and that's why we have it off by default. But if this is something that is causing confusion or frustration for your loved one, you can certainly turn shake to wake on, and they'll be able to read the watch and they don't have to press any buttons to turn on the LCD screen. The second is our lockdown mode. Again, on the watch itself, there are a couple of applications. There is a weather application, there is a step count, and then there's also that call contacts feature where they can call people other than the SOS number. Again, we have some situations where those applications actually create confusion for the wearer and becomes very frustrating to them. So what we can do is we can enable lockdown mode. And what that will do is that will turn off all of those icons so the watch is just a watch. The only thing that will be displayed on the watch is the time on the watch. Now, of course, the SOS button will always work. So, if they press that SOS button, it will make the call, but it turns off all of those other applications in order to avoid any frustration that may be occurring. And finally, if you do need to change the SOS number, you're going to change that number that you want the watch to call when the SOS button is pressed, or if a fall is detected. If you're using our smart fall detection, you can change that phone number. If you make any changes, go ahead and tap on the Save Device Settings to apply those changes. Finally, we're going to look at notification settings. So these are those alerts that you get on your phone when different things occur. So, maybe the battery is low, or the battery is recharged, or the SOS button. These are all the different things that you can receive alerts on. Now, by default, we have everything except for online, offline as being notification enabled. Typically, we only use the online, offline for advanced troubleshooting, so that is usually something that we recommend leaving off unless support has given you some information to turn that on. But you can turn these other things off or on as you see fit. Some people will want to have entered and exited safe zones on. Some people will want them to be off, depending on your situation, if you need to have kind of emergent or immediate information of when that's occurred. You'll also see there's a second column in here called Emergency Alert. Now, this is something that is only on iPhone. So I'm sorry if you are an Android user, Android does not have what are called critical alerts. But if you are an Apple or an iPhone user, they have the ability to do critical alerts, or what we call emergency alerts. And what these do is it overrides the audio settings. If your phone is on Do Not Disturb or on mute, it overrides that so that you always get an audible alert when one of these events occur. And also, you've probably seen where you'll get a notification, and after a few seconds that notification goes away. If it is an emergency alert, that notification stays on your screen until you proactively go and respond to it and clear it. So by default, we do have emergency alerts set up for when the SOS button is pressed and when a fall is detected. We do not have emergency alerts turned on for the other things, but you can turn those on if you need that immediate alert. You want to make sure that you do not miss any alerts, that you're always notified with an audible sound. That is what emergency alerts are for. And finally, down at the bottom, we just have some technical details about the watch. These are some things that maybe tech support might ask you for if you ever need to call into our support number. But most of this information is, again, really just needed by our support team.